Good evening and welcome to Face to Face for the Newsfirst team. I'm Kaushalya Ariyarathne. My guest tonight is Kaushalya Ariyarathne, Member of Parliament who represents the NPP. Good evening and welcome, Kaushalya. Welcome back after many months, I must say, because you've been very busy. Now,
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I'm sure that our viewers would love to hear what you have to say. Now, Kaushalya, the Sri Lankan public loves drama, political drama, and they're getting a huge dose of it right now. And there seem to be endless participants as well. Everybody has something to say. But government is not about drama. Government is about taking the country forward. The humdrum work day to day in the ministries, in parliament, parliamentary committees and so on. And Kaushalya, you are actually on a large number of these parliamentary committees. And if I am to list out some of them, you're on the Committee of Public Finance, COP-F, which is of course extremely important when it comes to ensuring transparency and financial accountability. And you're also on 3 ministerial committees. That's the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Women's and Children's Affairs. So tell me, what is a typical day like for you, because you have to get involved in the business of all these committees.
Again, thank you for having me. After a long time, yes, as you said, it has been busy few months actually. 50% of my work goes in the parliament and the rest in the constituency which I represent, Kaduela. And there is barely a time left for other work, and even media, going to media is also part of the work. It's not the only work that we do. In terms of the parliament, yes, as you said, I represent the standing committees, few standing committees, and usually the parliament is, the first half of the day is for, as you said, a lot of questioning, responding, drama, fights, arguments, and so on, etc. But usually in the parliament, the rest, half of the day is with the committees. Usually people don't see what's happening in the committees. People see the parliament as the chambers that the government and the opposition they keep arguing. But that is not the parliament. That is only the gallery. But the actual work of the parliament happens behind the screens, I must say. For example, now the COP-F, if we take, this is one of the very important committees that which is in the parliament, and it's a permanent standing committee which scrutinizes the government's finance bills, right? So it has a say on the government's fiscal policy, and also it is headed by the opposition. So there is a democracy within the committee, and when a bill comes, we sort of argue about the policy, question the officials about the impact for the people, and we also have to think whether this is actually that what people have given us the mandate for, because we have to implement the promises. And if we bring a bill that is against our policies, that also we have to make sure that it doesn't go beyond. So there are a lot of things happening, and especially we have to make sure the government income and the government expenditure, and also the finance of the bill is right on track. So that is basically happening. And the ministerial consultative committees are for the particular ministries that we influence on policy making. People don't see the policy making, what is happening at the policy making. I must say that in those committees, the government and the opposition parties are working together usually, apart from certain ideological differences that may come in discussion. Usually they work together in policy making, which people don't see. People see the parliament as the
grandstanding, the speeches, the
and the
insults.
fights and arguments and all. But the actual work in the parliament happens with the support of all the parties, I must say.
Right. So that's very refreshing to hear, actually. So when the TV cameras are not there, there is actually a lot of work going on in a very civil manner. And as I said at the opening, that's what will take our country forward. It's not about shouting at each other on the floor of Parliament and shouting at each other over who's getting arrested, who's getting bail, and all that. Those actually, in the end, don't have that much impact on day-to-day life and the future of our country. So tell us something. What's going on in some of these ministerial committees? For example, if we look at Women's and Children's Affairs, which doesn't get a lot of publicity, not something which has a lot of drama, but we're talking about nearly 75% of the population, and these are the policies being set for them. What can we expect? What's going on?
In Women and Children's Affairs, particularly, as you said, it's not much in the discussion as opposed to some of the other ministries. Now, Women and Children's Affairs, we have to, as a consultative committee, we have to make sure that the proposals, that the suggestions, that promises that we make are now reflected in the work of the ministry, right? So, for the past few weeks that we have been giving suggestions for the budget proposals. Now, one, for example, one of the largest promises was eradicating the rural poverty. So it's not, we don't believe that it's only dedicated for the finance ministry. There is a huge role lies within the Women and Children's Affairs Ministry to eradicate the rural poverty, because the rural sector, it's mainly 50 to 53% of the population is also from women, and also in agriculture sector there are a lot of women, and informal sector there are many women who are engaged in informal sector labor. So we have to make sure that these are reflected in the budget proposals for the next year. And also we have given extra prominence in our budget, our promises, our proposals, our policy book for unpaid care work. Now, how do we make sure that unpaid care work is accounted as a part of the national economy? So those are the things that we discuss in the policy level. What are the proposals that we bring? Now, we have been working on giving women more access for the market, and especially on production economy, rural productions. How do we include women in SME sector? So those are the things that we have been discussing for the past few months. And in children's rights area, we have taken few steps, new steps to make sure that children are safe. I'll tell you few examples. For example, now we have started the program called Artha, which is a financial not in incentive, it's a saving system for the children who are in institutions. So when they go out from the institutions, they have a saving that will be the saving will be built from the government expenditure. So those are the things that we have to make sure. Now we have started certain programs for children with autism, and also people who are in as juvenile delinquents who are coming out of prisons, and if they get married, we have a scheme that they can apply for a loan to build a house. So those are the things that never ever talked in a national budget in Sri Lanka, but then we have included in our small budget that we we have given, we have produced in April. Now, we have also suggested some more proposals for the upcoming budget. So those are some of the examples of what we are doing in the Women and Children's Ministry.
Right. Now, you mentioned poverty alleviation, and prior to the election, certainly on our face-to-face program, we covered this extensively because within a couple of years, the number of people below the poverty line went from 8% to 25% due to the economic disaster of 2022 and then 23 and almost into 24 because of higher taxes and so on. And how now it's very easy to send millions of people below the poverty line. You know, you have an economic disaster, people lose their jobs and they drop below the poverty line. You have the cost of living skyrocketing, same thing happens. But now, even though inflation is under control, it is below 5%, but the cost of living had gone up earlier to such an extent that still well over 20% of our population is still under the poverty line, below the poverty line. How do you try to solve this problem? Because it's very pressing, isn't it? We're talking about children being malnourished, and you know that there are direct impacts. How do you sort of focus on this?
I'm happy that you asked this question. So last week, this circular came, new circular on Prajashakti. This is called Prajashakti. And people think when we say Prajashakti, it's also another program like, you know, Aswasuma, Samuddiyo, Janasavya. But how many years we have had these social security programs? But if you consider how much money the government has spent, do we really have an impact? That's a question, right? I mean,
it's mainly handouts, isn't it?
Yes,
which is not
cash
going to. I mean,
yes.
it's good to have.
So the purpose is to get them into the labor force, right?
Right.
To that should be the real purpose, but it never happened. Now, for example, if we take as the numbers, 2.4 million families are getting Aswasuma. Now, what is the point of 2.4 million are getting Aswasuma but have no contribution to the labor force, right, or production economy? So the Prajashakti that's how Prajashakti is different to any other programs. Now, this will come in the news in the coming weeks. I'll tell briefly about the program. Now, we have taken into consideration the fact that I think it's UNFPA report states that every one family out of every 6 families are suffering from multidimensional poverty. Multidimensional poverty index is an index where they calculate the poverty in a holistic manner, not as in a financial way. For example, living conditions, health and education as well are taken into consideration when they measure multidimensional poverty. So we have taken that multidimensional poverty index into our project. How do we address this as a holistic way, not as distributing cash, and we expect that people will automatically come out of the poverty? That will never happen. So in the Prajashakti, we have Prajashakti committees in each village, specifically targeting village level programs for poverty alleviation. Because we can't have a uniform measure for every village there are 1400 villages across the country, or 14,000, sorry, 14,000. We can't have one single program for everybody. So it has to be tailor-made based on the village level, based on the poverty level, based on the ethnic community or the gender or the other social structures, and also the even the climate of the area, it also matters, right? So we are going to form a committee for the village headed by the villagers
in each village,
but also connected to the government, right? It's not just a civil society committee. It has the power to demand for the projects and also get money and spend with the monitoring process of the government according to the policy of the government as well. So that's why I said it's a new program. Maybe it's very new that people don't understand yet, but it will slowly come into news and people will get to know. And then once people start forming the Prajashakti committees, then they will further get to know what to do and how do we contribute to the economy. So that is how we are going to eradicate poverty slowly. It's not just by giving cash. We don't believe that poverty will automatically vanish.
Right. You spoke of 2.4 million families under Aswasuma. That is approximately 10 million people out of our 21 million. So that's a massive number. So we do need to lift them quietly out of, above the poverty line. So yes, we certainly look forward to hearing a lot more about the Prajashakti program. Now, Kaushalya, you mentioned your party's manifesto several times. And I'm very glad to hear that, because most political parties, they only think of a manifesto when an election is coming up, and then they hurriedly write something, they put something together, and then they throw it around saying this is what we're going to do. And then if they win, usually they just forget about it. And if they lose, well, you don't hear of it at all. But in the case of your party, we hear this reference back to it. So it is being used as a guide, isn't it?
Yes, it is adopted as the formal government's policy book once we became the government, because usually, as you said correctly, when governments take the power, they just forget about what they have said before the election. We have promised that we will change this culture. The Thriving Nation Beautiful Life is the current government's Bible, I would say, and this is the guiding book for every one of us.
Right. And of course, that is not to say that everything in the manifesto can be achieved, is it? I mean, there are a lot of things which the NPP as a party would like to do, but it's, once you get into government, you find it's not absolutely practical, or it will take a long time. So it's not that, of course, your opponents will point to the manifesto and say, you haven't done this and you haven't done that, but you are generally going by that guideline.
It takes time, Niresh. Now, if you say that now what the opposition has been saying is, now we have been in power for about 10 months, so you haven't finished the book. I mean, the book is for 5 years. Book is not to finish in 1 year. So as you said, some of the things may become impractical because of the dynamics happening outside. I mean, there can be disasters, natural disasters, or the things coming from outside, like for example the US tariff or the war. Anything can happen. But we are also trying to manage the situations based on our policy and our abilities, but also there are certain things that may take time. We have to also give time, because this is not a book that, okay, we will do this in 1 year and we'll have a happily ever after life. This governance is also kind of negotiation, working with like-minded as well as opposition also, right?
Right.
So there is this always going back and forth, negotiations, compromises. I must say that this is also a journey, but I'm saying, I'm not me personally, but every one of us referring back to the policy book is it keeps reminding us our direction. So we don't want to deviate from our direction, and that's how the policy book helps us.
Right, and you also have to work with the existing civil servants who have got used to doing things in a certain way for years, sometimes for decades. Some of it may be in a corrupt fashion, but some of it may be just inefficient and mismanaged. So you have to sort of bring in these changes, and you can't do it overnight, can you?
We can't do it overnight. Now, if you say the government is not only the central government is also comprised with the local governments, right? For example, the Kaduela, which I represent, it's very challenging to sometimes work with the municipal council, right? Even before, I think
that goes for almost all municipal councils and Pradeshya Sabhas,
yes.
not just Kaduela.
So before the election, we know that they have had local government councillors who worked in a different way, right? So they had their own proportions of projects, they had the ways that they dealt with the officials. So we know that there was not, I'm not saying everyone was corrupt, but there are certain officials who are corrupt. So when you
But that was the system.
That was the system, yes. But when we had no council members before the election, I must say it was difficult, right? It was difficult, and the machinery was moving very slowly. There were challenges, different challenges. Now we have our local government councillors. Now they also have to struggle as much as very similar to the government. The ministers are struggling with the ministry officials. I'm not saying all the ministry officials are corrupt or anything or lazy. There are good and dedicated, committed government officials. I have met some people who have amazing ideas, but there was no space for them to put them on the table. Now they have the freedom to work without pressure coming from the political authority. We have given that freedom for the officials, but still if they think that okay, there is space for corruption, no way, I'm sorry, that you can see that lot of the people, including the police and no matter whether even the presidents, police, prison officials, several people,
very high officials,
and also in the other officials,
politicians as well,
politicians, everybody. Now they are realizing that there is no space for corruption and the law is equal to everybody. Nobody is above the law.
And that's good to hear, and that is something which Sri Lankans wanted, and they're getting it. It might take a bit of getting used to, but they have to get used to it. We have to get used to it. We need to take a short commercial break right now. I am in conversation with Kaushalya Ariyarathne, Member of Parliament, and we'll be right back, so don't go away.
A trusted place for your fixed deposits. Valuable FD, 10.25% for 15 months, 11% for 24 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
The wait is over. 8 nations, one dream. The battle. TV1.
You're විසින කඳුරැලියක අහිමිව යන උරුමය.
දෙවියන් වහන්සේගේ නාමයෙන් මගේ දරු පැටියට කරදරයක් අනතුරක් සිද්ධ නොවේවා.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I am with Dr. Kaushalya Ariyarathne, Member of Parliament. Kaushalya, it's been almost 1 year now since the NPP took office, or should I say President AKD took office. It took a few more weeks before the NPP won the general election. Looking back, how do you feel? Both looking back at the progress of the country, and after that, tell me how you feel personally as well.
Right. Lot to reflect on. As a government, I think one of the biggest challenges we had was to clear the ground. You know, when you take over a marshy land to make a, let's say you are going to build a playground, you have to clear the weeds, right? I mean, that was the biggest challenge, and I don't think we have finished that job yet. We have a lot to do, and the whole stalled justice system has to be running properly, and that is one of the biggest challenges we had. And also people say that when we took the government, the economy was stable already. But I must say it was not stable per se. There was a support, yes, true, that the IMF has given by that time. But there was no vision for the growth of the economy, right? So what we had, what challenge we had was to thinking about the growth of the economy. I think in person as well as a whole of the government, that we have now in the route to the on the way to the economic growth. For example, now if we take the macroeconomic data, that we have, if we compare to year growth, we have achieved the targets given to the
given by the IMF. And,
not only IMF, I must say now we had the target to increase the government income, right? For example, the IRD, Inland Revenue Department, the Customs, the Excise Department, we have gone beyond the expected rate now, 106%, 103, 110, like that. That's one thing. And also we have achieved certain progress in the economy. We have stabilized the dollar like up to 300 rupees, and we have increased the foreign remittance. I saw the reports, it said year to year it was 19% high than compared to 2024. And then we have
the inflation rate also
in 5%. Little up and down, but then it didn't go. It was 17% at one point, remember? So we have maintained it, and also we have gone towards the development, and we have had 1.5 million tourists for this year so far. Our target is 3 million. And the income from the tourists has also gone up compared to last year, like 8% high. So these are macroeconomic numbers. I agree with you. I mean, there are things need to be changed. People have to feel that the prices of the goods are reducing, right? So that also takes some time, but certain things we have managed, but certain things there are a lot to be done also. Now, if we say that that last 10 months, as you said, a lot of the people, including the opposition, has predicted that the country will fall back onto 2022 or 2023 because we won't be able to make sure that the economy is stable, and we will not have the support of the international community, or we have no vision. But we have shown that we are going slowly but steadily in the economic growth process. I believe that we have had so much, but since you ask about the personal opinion, personally I feel like when you are in the opposition or when you are in activists, you have so much energy to get things done overnight, right? That's how you feel when you are an activist. But when you actually work with the government sector, you know that there is a pace for everything, right? And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but there are certain time that we need to give for certain things. We have to also carefully negotiate with the machinery, not antagonizing the machinery, in order to make sure that they also work properly. So that takes time, but I think we are slowly progressing. We are managing well, and a lot of the government officers are now working with us because they have no influence to do the wrong things.
Right, and you're absolutely correct in that you can't just sort of implement change with a magic wand. I think President Gotabaya Rajapaksa tried to do that by appointing so many high-ranking military officers to head government departments, and mostly it didn't work because military officers are used to a certain amount of discipline, and when they bark orders, within the military it gets done. But you try doing that in a government department and it will get lost in the paperwork. So I think this approach seems to be much more pragmatic. Right. Now, you mentioned being an activist, and you were one. Human rights was your specialty at the University of Colombo. Of course, you're no longer there because you're a member of parliament. How do you see the human rights situation then and now? Let's take a contrast of, the Aragalia days and then activists being bashed up and tear gassed and arrested, and the change in policies, and in fact the changes in the way that the police and the military are also handling situations.
Right. I mean, one of the good things is that a lot of the activists are now part of the government, right? So then we have not changed our stance on the rights, right? And also we have not changed our views on what rights should be. Now, if you take past few years, you could see that there is a lot of as you correctly said, that appointing military personnel, it didn't help. Militarizing the governments won't help. And also certain things that we have had some opinions. We were always fighting against I'm giving you one example, the Prevention of Terrorism Act, for example. Now we have been fighting against it. Now we are working on our plan is to abolish the act. And recently, on last Friday, if I'm correct, Minister of our Foreign Minister said that we will repeal the PTA within this year.
Yes, so, that was certainly great news when Minister Vijay announced it in Parliament.
Announced it in the Parliament.
I think he said in early September it will be repealed.
And also we have had different opinion about OSA, now Online Safety Act. Now we have appointed a committee to look into Online Safety Act, because we believe that people need safety in online spaces, but it should not curtail the rights of freedom of expression. So that also we have appointed a committee. And there are a lot of other laws, and if you take the past of media freedom, and I request people to compare it with now, and you have the freedom of expression. but also there is a responsibility lies with the people as well. It doesn't mean that you can say anything, you can bully people, you can harass people, or you can
That's
post
not on.
fake news, right? So those are the things that people also need to be, I mean, when I say people, it's individuals as well as organizations, especially certain media organizations as well, to keep it in mind. And also about the constitution, we have promised that we will bring a new constitution that will also come into discussion. I think that it's not the agenda of the first year, because the first year is all about stabilizing and starting the economic growth. So I think we are successfully going in that road. And we can see at that. And also one thing I want to highlight is that the government has given space for discussion always. I think that is why the postal strike, the doctor strike failed, right? Because they started the trade union actions even when the minister has given space to talk and discuss, right? So if you have, I mean, when you do a trade union action, you first start with the negotiation with the authorities, right? If you have that space, if you use that space, then no need to go for trade union action. So that's why the minister has again and again given certain spaces, and the negotiations happened, and then certain compromises were made by the government authorities as well as the workers, and that's how we keep the country going, right? So I think that is what important to highlight. There is always the space to discuss.
Now, I mentioned you being a human rights specialist, and you mentioned about the PTA, the OSA, and so on. Now, when it comes to Geneva, which has become a bad word, Sri Lanka's governments seem to just have a knee-jerk reaction and go over there and become very defensive. The UN comes out with its report, and we reject that, and it becomes a lot of mudslinging basically happens. We are saying this is not happening, and they're saying it's happening, and in the end we get resolutions passed against us. And it's almost as if we are a bunch of children being taken to the principal's office, which it shouldn't be. How confident is the NPP this time about going to Geneva? Because there are quite a number of achievements which can be pointed to. Nothing's perfect, of course, a long way to go. But has the government given much thought to this?
Definitely. I think Geneva and all the whole human rights UN structure, the past governments have been either supportive or extremely defensive, right? But our stance is that we should not take UN system or the structures as tick boxes, right? We should always think about what as a country we need to achieve, not just to satisfy the external actors, but also not to
satisfy ourselves.
Yes, not to be against just because they are Western. There is no such thing. But I think we have to work with them, along with them, taking the UN structures or the UN parameters as a guideline, but we have to think what actually people want from the ground. Now, for example, if we take the recent UN Human Rights Commissioner's report on Sri Lanka, he has particularly said that there is a shift in the government approach to human rights. That is very significant, I personally think, because, it's again, human rights have been either used to mobilize the nationalist sentiments, or else used as a the governments use it as a way of satisfying the UN, not actually thinking about what people wanted. But as we initially said, even before the election and even after the election, we said that we will respect human rights, but we want to actually listen to people what they want and then work amongst us to achieve those expectations. So there is a lot to do, as you said, but we are on the way.
Right. And what more can we expect in the human rights sphere going forward? What about year 2, perhaps?
Well, I can't right now say what exactly in the agenda, but definitely we'll discuss about the constitutional matters. We'll discuss about also ending corruption and also the media freedom. I mean, we are working on a media policy now.
That I think, I mean, again, things like media policy, it's something that many countries have. It is a policy, it's not a law, but it's just it's a bit of a guideline.
Yes, but when I say guidelines, I think there should be a balance for freedom of expression as well as the national security or health or public health or any other. There is always this balance need to be maintained. So I think the policy will make sure that this will protect the freedom of expression for everyone, not only for the media institutions. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't involved in that work, but from the little knowledge I have on it, I'm sure that this will be a good policy for the future.
Right. You mentioned the constitution. Now, writing a new constitution is a massive task. I remember in 94, 95, Professor G.L. Pires, he had a parliamentary committee and they set about writing a new constitution. It took them years.
Yes, yes.
And finally they came up with a document, but of course that was not passed in Parliament, so that was that. Didn't work out. But it's not something to be taken lightly, is it?
Definitely. I think there were several attempts. I mean, we can't write a constitution like the 1978, the constitution that was drafted inside a room. Now, if you remember that between 2015 to 2019, there was a massive consultation across the country for a new constitution. Spent lot of millions of rupees, but nothing came out as a result. There was a draft which nobody saw, and also under Gotabaya Rajapaksa's government there was another committee appointed. So what we have to do is, we don't have to reinvent the wheel again. We have to take everything into consideration, and then we have to work again on with the existing documents, right? But again, I'm saying that we need a true face-to-face talk with the periphery, with people who are actually suffering from various issues, and then bring all the people's ideas into the constitution. Like, it would be ideal if we can go something like South African constitution that took years and years for drafting, right? I mean, that's how it happens, but I think somewhere you have to start the process. I'm not saying this will be done in a year or two, but it will take maybe 5 years, who knows. But again, it's how true you are to the cause that matters.
But the public consultation itself will take months or years, because you're talking about you're telling a population of 21 million, or at least the adults in it, that you want their ideas, and everybody's got a different idea of what a constitution should be. If you take people of religious backgrounds, they will want religion in the constitution. Others will say, well, let's not have religion. So you have to listen to all these people and finally come up with a proper document.
Definitely. I mean, that is the beauty of a constitution also. I mean, if it reflects everybody in the country, every community of the country, that will be a proper, better document. We don't know how long it takes.
You can't sort of set a time plan to it, can you?
No,
I mean,
no.
loosely, yes, you can say, okay, we'd like to finish
Yes.
it by this date, but you can't sort of rush it.
It's in a way sad that, we have not had a proper constitutional drafting process. I mean, all these constitutions and attempts for the drafting of constitutions were all just because as a ticking box excuses. But I think what we want to do is to bring proper representation to the constitution and then make sure that there is no ethnic conflict or whatsoever happen in the future.
Right. I think we are very far from any ethnic conflict, fortunately. Speaking of ethnicity, what about the process of national integration, which again is not something you can do overnight? We had a war for 26 years, and it takes a long time to heal those wounds and to try to bring about this sense of Sri Lankan identity.
Yes, I mean, it's when you say national integration, it has different meanings to different people. I mean, some people would say just forget and move on, but you can't forget and move on unless you are satisfied that you have justice for the crimes happened in the past. Again, I won't be able to say that this is going to be our work exactly, because that's also in the process of negotiation. But I'm sure that we have put up a serious thought about the importance of national integration, and we have started doing it. For the first time in the history, people voted for one Sinhalese leader without, especially the North and East people. And that's the mandate people have given us. I mean, that we have to be true to that mandate to serve the justice for the people who have given faith on us. So that is our job to do.
Right, and I'm afraid we are out of time, unfortunately. My thanks to Dr. Kaushalya Ariyarathne, a Member of Parliament, for joining me this evening, and I hope that you will be back soon, because the gap between the last time you came here and tonight has been, it's been quite a while. So certainly the invitation is extended right now. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away, because the news is coming up next. Have a great evening.
The wait is over. 8 nations.